Hey everybody, it's Matt Rosenthal, CEO of Mindcore Technologies. I'm here today with Matt Johnson. He is the CEO and CTO of Phalanx Security. Do I get that right? Phalanx Security.
Phalanx Security.
We've been working together for many, many years now. I don't know, I feel like it's been probably 4 or 5 years at this point.
Since 2016.
And we do a lot of work with this firm. They're in my opinion, the best around when it comes to cybersecurity. Cybersecurity training and testing, and just knowing all around about what's really going on out there with cybersecurity. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about Matt's background and what he's seeing out in the marketplace. And we want to deliver value and just really share information with you so that you know what to look for and what not to do, and just kind of what's happening out there cybersecurity wise. So if you don't mind, could you just maybe share with us your background, your certifications, and the things you've done and where you've been? And
Sure. So I, oddly enough, it's weird to say, but I'm actually considered an old timer in the IT industry. I started 22 years ago when I was 23 years ago when I was 21 years old, working for a defense contractor, installing what I called a break-fix monkey. We would just go out and put parts in and replace them, come back every day and get new parts and put new parts in. Did that for a few years, learned Cisco networking, learned Microsoft networking. My original MCSE number is only 4 digits long, so one of the original
MCSEs.
Yeah, back when you actually had to take a real test to become an MCSE. I don't have it anymore because, lots of years of experience. I figure if my years of experience don't speak for me, then all the tests in the world are.
Yeah.
I moved into security probably about 15 years ago after doing a million IT projects, mostly in healthcare and IT security. Started Phalanx Secure Solutions back in 2016 after running an IT company for about 10 years. So we specialize in network intrusion detection and finding bad actors and bad people coming into your network. As far as myself, I hold certifications in ethical hacking, penetration testing, Security Plus, CISSP, the full gambit of cybersecurity.
You got everything.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. So you said about 10 years ago, you moved into security, or maybe decided to specialize more in security,
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So what happened 10 years ago? What did you see?
Well, there was 2 things. One, I had built a million servers. I really tired of building servers at that point. But 2, I started seeing that more and more people were not paying attention to security, and with the the internet was becoming more prevalent. Things were people were using it more. People were using their computers online more, and so hacking and not ransomware, hacking and just people being malicious was becoming more of a thing.
Right.
It used to be that hackers would break into a government system, steal a couple dollars, and go out. But now that everyone has their computers online and all the businesses have their computers online, they're much easier targets to get to nowadays.
So that's awesome. So that you really identified something 10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And it seems like now you're seeing it play out.
I am. 10 years ago, I wanted to help people. I wanted people to realize that there was more they could do than just be apathetic about security. So that's where we came into play to try and make small, when I first started Phalanx, all the big players in the industry were only worried about the government or enterprise. No one was worried about, 10-man firms, 20-man firms, small shops. And that's been our big focus is making sure that everyone knows they need to be protected.
So so the small and medium business.
Correct. Yes.
There's definitely a focus there.
Yes.
Which is how you and I ended up working together because we focus on that same small and medium business.
Right.
I don't know about you, but to me, medium business could be up to 500 or 1,000 people, right? So when we say medium business, it's actually a pretty big company.
It could be, yeah. We have some companies that have 300-400 people in them, and we still consider them medium businesses.
Yeah, yeah.
What I think of the enterprise, I think of the Fortune 500s and the publicly traded companies. They're the ones that all the bigger cyber firms want to go after because that's who they want to protect. We want to do what we call protecting through the herd method. We protect all the little guys, which should in turn protect all the big guys. If you look at Target, a bunch of years ago, Target itself wasn't hacked. It was their heating air conditioning company that got hacked, and we're able to get into the Target systems through them. So if somebody had protected that small company that was doing HVAC work for them, or through their industrial controls, we might not have seen the Target hack.
That's interesting. So we both deal with small and medium businesses, right? So what you're saying is people out there that are thinking that way are going to look to target those small and medium businesses specifically to get to the larger companies.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's the same way hacking works. You're always going into you go into the system you can get to first, and then try and climb higher and higher and higher. So why not go into a small mom and pop shop, get where you can in there, and then see if you can escalate from there.
Right. Okay. I jotted down a couple of questions
Sure.
before we came on, and I'm going to run through these with you. The first question I have is, what, in your opinion right now, or maybe it's what you're actually seeing, the top 3 cyber risks that the small, medium businesses should really be aware of?
Sure. So everyone always thinks the number one is ransomware. Ransomware is ginormous on everyone's mind. But really, what we see actually is insider threat. People stealing, we still consider it cyber. People stealing from companies, taking data filter, removing stuff out of databases, getting client data. All those things are, become a threat to your company. So that becomes our number one source of what is going on. Second,
Insider, though.
insider.
Meaning people that work
people that work
company,
for your company, yes.
that are
whether
intentionally...
So we did, one of our first clients ever was a large casino firm. That company called us in because they thought that some of their casino hosts were stealing player data and we're going to go work for another casino. So we were able to, through our tools, identify where they actually were taking screenshots of large accounts,
Wow.
getting all their contact info, and then went and applied at the casino down the street to go work for them. Violation of their terms of their contractor agreement.
Wow.
And that we probably saved them, $5.5-6 million over time based on not losing those clients.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
All right, so one is insider threats.
Yeah.
So for people that are watching, what's the advice on that one alone? What do they do about potential insider threats? I mean, you can't know if everybody there in your company is trying to harm you.
You can't. Sometimes you have to go with the aspect that everybody is. It's not a great way to be, but as a business owner, you have to be that way sometimes.
Assume that risk, like that everybody is trying to do something.
Yeah, but two, there are controls you can put in. Make sure people can't use USB keys. You can turn off print screen on computers. There's software you can put where you can actually monitor what your employees are doing, and if you think something's going on, you can go back and see the employee's desktop and watch what's going on.
So that stuff's readily available,
Yes.
and the return on that, as far as the insider threats, they're detected pretty well.
Yep.
Okay. What's the second
one?
Major cyber risk.
I'm always going to go with ransomware for a second. We see it every day. Down in my area in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore City, as they just said today, they're going to send out their water bills for the first time since May when they got hit with a ransomware attack. They had to restore, I believe I heard yesterday, 2,000 systems from the attack. So ransomware.
This is a city?
A city, the city of Baltimore. So ransomware affects pretty much everybody I've seen.
They may not be happy that we're talking about this on camera.
Everyone else is talking about it already.
That's true.
Yeah, they've been all over the news for the last couple of months.
You're right.
Actually, yesterday I just saw that 1,400 mayors signed an agreement not to pay ransomwares ever. So they're going to make a collective stand against ransomware, never to pay the ransomware. So I hope they all have great systems.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
Yeah, I hope they all have great systems in place if they don't.
They better get their backup working.
Right. Yeah, but ransomware hits without systems in place to protect you. It can hit you at any time, any place. If just one person downloading the link or clicking on a link or downloading the wrong application.
Yeah, I think ransomware is the one that certainly most people identify with.
Yep.
Because we hear about the getting Bitcoin, right, to go pay the ransomware.
Yep.
I've heard people tell stories about having to go down to a local store somewhere or like a bodega somewhere, where the machines are.
Yep.
And they put the money in the machines.
Yep.
And they get. This is actually a couple of years ago. First time.
Yeah, we've seen it where they've had to buy Bitcoin or buy gift cards or any number.
Yeah, all these mechanisms.
Forms of payment that aren't U.S. currency.
Right. It's funny because we were talking actually a few hours ago before we started this. You told me a story, and I thought it was interesting about that, right? About the who was it before you mentioned with the ransomware?
Oh, so a client of ours.
Don't mention the client.
No, I would never do that.
But the story was kind of interesting.
But yeah, so it's a client of ours that works with other clients. A hacker had potentially gotten the password of one of their administrators and used that to get into their system.
Right.
And instead of infecting them with ransomware, they went out and infected some
all
of
their clients.
Yeah, they went out and infected some of their clients with ransomware. So
wait, just pause right there for a second, because, and this applies to anybody that may be watching this. You may be an accounting firm, you may be an IT company like us. You could be a law firm, like this, a manufacturing company. If you've got a system like a CRM or something where you're actually running your business off of it, and every business out there has got something that they're using to really run their core business. There's accounts in there, there's users in there, and there's admin accounts. And in this particular case, and usually you've got your client information in there to some degree. It could be credit cards, maybe not. Who knows? It could be addresses. It could be whatever information you've got about the customer. And in this case, they were going after that customer data
to get the other.
They got in through the company's their CRM, their system they used to run their enterprise.
Correct. Yeah.
And the way they got in was the admin password, right?
Correct. Yes.
And how they got it, who knows? Maybe it was insider threat.
It could have been that, or it could have been a brute force, or hacked it, or any number of.
But once they got when I said to you before, well, what would somebody do to avoid that? The answer you gave me happens to be my second question, so I'm going to hold off on it. I don't want to say it yet. So we talked about the first two being insider threats and ransomware. The third major cyber risk that you're seeing today
is what we call phishing attacks. Everybody loves to go fishing.
Yeah.
So a phishing attack is when someone sends you an email. It looks very legit. It could come from Starbucks. It could come from your HR. It could come from any number, Best Buy, your bank. It looks like a very legit email. You'll click on it. It's going to ask you for some kind of personal information, username, password, social security number, any type of information. But it's not actually going to your bank or to your HR department or to Starbucks. It's going to a fake website they've set up so they can collect your information.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we see more of that than anything. People asking for wire transfers.
Yes.
People asking. I heard somebody yesterday tell me a story about that. What they were asked for was to go to a gas station or something and buy scratch-off lottery tickets. That one I had never heard before.
Yeah, we had a client about a month ago that called us because their CFO had gotten an email from him, not from him, but it said, hey, we need to pay this vendor. It was an actual vendor name they used, so that was pretty legit. $40,000. Can you wire $40,000 to this account right now? The CFO, I guess in his haste, didn't think to check on such a large transfer, wired $40,000 to that account.
Gone.
And once money hits the federal wire system, there's not much you can do to get it back.
So that's actually a great point. So even with something like that, what's the recommendation? Like you have a CFO, smart guy or smart person, but they feel like there's a sense of urgency. Maybe they just want to react. What could they do?
Yeah, I think there's two things there. One, I mean, you have to have some kind of cyber awareness training. You have to, really educate everyone in your organization, as to what cyber threats are coming and what they need to do. But the second thing is you have to have controls in place. I mean, I don't know about your company, but nobody in my company is ever going to wire $40,000 without getting some kind of sign off on something somewhere.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even for a large company, $40,000 is a good chunk of change.
So we actually have that protection in place. So if somebody, there's only two people in my company that can wire money at this point.
Right.
But if there is a request for a wire, ultimately I'm going to get a call from the bank. But the call is a result of an actual form being filled out that requires two signatures, which gets sent to the bank, and then the bank calls me anyway. It's at that point it's impossible.
Yes.
Right. But just getting back for a second to the phishing. So the email that comes out, the phishing email, there's a couple of telltale signs in the email that you might be able to look for.
Yeah, there's always telltale signs. One, the email address is not going to be perfect. So say if you work for John's company, it might be johnscomp.com.
Yeah. So look for those anomalies. Like look, it doesn't seem right.
If you like, for instance, if you get an email from your bank and you go to click on the site, and if you look and you realize that it's not your bank's website, it's another website. It's just little things to pay attention to.
So check that. Check the email address. It might say the person's name, but if you look at the whatever it says after that, it might look a little odd. Is there a circumstance where that whole entire email address would look exactly legit?
It could. I mean, they could be legit and make it look that way.
So how do they do that?
There's a thing called email spoofing. They're able to create an email account.
It's like a subset of phishing. Now it's spoofing. So it looks like a real email address.
It does, yeah. They could, for instance, have one that says, bob@bob.com, and that's the actual email. Is bob@bob.com.
So what do you look for in there to know it's phishing?
That one's it's harder. The big thing I always tell people to remember is your HR organization, including Starbucks, because people use Starbucks a lot for phishing. Your HR organization, Starbucks, your bank, they're never going to ask you for your password or your social security number.
That's a great point.
They will never do that through an email.
Great point.
The bank already has your social security number. They don't want your password. No, they don't save them. Passwords aren't saved that way.
So,
saved encrypted so the bank can't see them anyway.
so they would never ask for. So this is important. I want to just take a second to point this out clearly. In a phishing scam, right? The subset of phishing being a spoof, right, where the email address even looks legit.
Legit, yes.
You have to stop and ask yourself, with the stuff that they're asking for, the content of that email.
Right.
I don't care if it's your bank, if it's your mortgage company, it doesn't
Whatever,
matter who.
yeah.
Would they really be asking you for that information? Or would they really be sending you an email maybe saying, click on this link?
Yes. What I would say is, if your bank sends you an email, instead of clicking on any link from the bank, just go to your bank's website and then log in.
You'll see a notification.
Yeah, because you'll see the notifications and the messages there.
Yeah.
Never click on a link to try and go to your
that's like one of the most valuable pieces of information.
Yep.
So those are the three things: insider threats, ransomware, phishing, and a subset of phishing.
Well, spoofing the emails so
that
they look very legit.
Yeah.
That's how they do the wire transfer ones a lot of times. They want it to look like it's coming from a legit person in the company.
And Matt made a great point. Once you wire the money out, you're not getting it back.
No, it's gone.
So employee education. If you're in a position where you have employees, or if you're in a position where you could certainly share information with your company and help the company out, just by bringing to their attention that there's things that they could do. User education, fellow teammates, employees. Probably the most powerful thing you can do is educate them. Simply don't click the link. Don't do what it says. I guess you could say ask. Ask somebody.
Yep.
Certainly seek out if it is your bank. Contact the bank. Go to the website.
Right.
The damage you can do by clicking on that link, for example,
putting in any type of personal
what could happen?
Well, I mean, depending on your level at a company, if someone's asking you for first of all, if they're asking for your bank credentials and you give them your bank credentials, they're going to transfer all your money out of your account.
Right. And you've seen that happen?
And it's going to be quick. Oh, yeah. I've seen that a few times. And they'll be very quick at getting it out. And you'll probably get it back because all money is insured by the FDIC. But it's a process. It's not going to happen instantly. Yeah. If you have checks that are going to clear, your mortgage payment's going to bounce, all kinds of... It's going to stress you out for a long time.
I actually have a question. I just thought of it. If you don't know, it's okay.
Okay.
Have you seen people's phones being hacked? Like where people are getting information off of somebody's cell phone?
So we're seeing not so much information off the cell phone yet. I know they show that in movies all the time. They call it bluejacking and a bunch of other fun terms. I haven't seen that yet. What we're actually seeing is people calling your cell phone provider and saying, and pretending to be you because they know enough about you to pretend to be you, and saying, "Hey, I just bought a new phone. Can you switch my phone to this new phone number?" And then they'll switch it over, and then they'll be able to go to your bank and reset your password and get the authentication code. So they're getting it set up so they can get all the text.
That's smart.
From your bank. So,
yeah. Figure out another way to work around it.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So I alluded before to a possible way to avoid some of these things, especially the ransomware, and that's dual authentication.
Correct. So
I can tell you that a lot of my company's clients actually come to us and ask us about dual authentication. I can tell you that it's something that when it comes to compliance, that we have clients who are in the financial services or insurance, and there are industry standards being put in place, in those industries as well as many others, where they're requiring that.
Yeah.
So maybe you could just talk about that.
Yeah. So dual authentication is great. Passwords are done as in a password is something you know. The second part is something you have. So you know the password, you have your phone on you, or you have a token on you. So with dual authentication, you're able to put in your password and then either put in a text or a code or something from either an SMS, a cell phone text message, or there's a software that you can put on your phones now, Google Authenticator, to name a few. Yeah. It just allows you to have a code that you're able to put in as a secondary form of authentication because you have that with you. So if I'm hacker A and I know your password, but I don't have your phone, I can't put in that secondary bit of information to validate that you're you.
Now this is common now.
Yes, very common. I have, I looked at my Google Authenticator this morning, I have 15 different services on it that I use it to authenticate, from payroll down to just logging into my bank account.
So it's common. I mean, it's becoming common. It is something that...
It's becoming something
everybody should get used to.
Yeah, and we're getting used to it, and more people should get used to having that form.
So getting back to the example you gave before of the firm that that got hacked, if they had dual authentication,
they could have saved themselves on that one because whoever was breaking in their system would have had the username and the password. But the minute it was the second they were asked for that secondary form of validation, as long as they hadn't gotten their cell phone or whatever they were using to authenticate with, they wouldn't have had that.
Right.
So they instantly would have been kicked out of the system.
I guess anybody can relate to this now because pretty much every bank or Amazon.
Yep.
In fact, I think is it my Amazon when I'm shopping? I guess if I want to reset my Amazon password, I think it uses dual authentication. Certainly, Microsoft does every time you do something.
Microsoft, especially Office 365, if you lock yourself out or you want to change your password, it sends a message to your cell phone. Yeah. Most banks now, for instance, with wire transfer. So our bank, every time a wire transfer is initiated, it texts my phone and my phone only, and I have to put in the code to initiate a wire transfer. That's one of our forms of control. Right. So we keep it that way.
Right. And I take it a step further. Like my iPhone, like everybody else's, I use the facial recognition. So you got that, then you got the phone getting the code. It's pretty secure.
Yes, yeah. I use your fingerprint on mine because
get a new phone.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so I wanted to cover dual authentication. So thanks for going into that. Okay, so are there any trends? What I mean by trends is, look, the people we're out there dealing with things from an IT perspective, right? And our clients call us with issues. We give advice and guidance on a regular basis. But are there trends? Are there things that are happening that you're starting to see that haven't even found their way out to us yet?
Not so much new things. We're seeing more and more different strains of ransomware. They're getting smarter, cuter. They're finding new ways of getting into systems and really trying a way to affect things. So ransomware, I think, is going to just be out here for a long time.
This is part of life.
They make a lot of money. I just saw that the last one, I think it was called G and Grab, they just closed down. I'm not sure the number off the top of my head, but I believe it was over $2.5 billion or $3 billion they made from the ransomware. They had a professional.
Hold on. They made $2 to $3 billion.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, yeah. They had a professional help desk. The same client that we were talking about earlier, they had to pay one of the ransoms, and the ransomware guy called him to make sure that after he paid, he was able to decrypt the files. So they have customer service.
They want the customers to be happy.
Yeah, they have customer service. Call. It's crazy.
We've seen that too. We've come across people that will call us and say, "Hey, this happened. What do we do?" Honestly, our answer usually is, if you don't have a solid backup, like a virtual machine where you could just roll it back and put it back and pay the ransom, because what we do know is they'll give you your data back.
Right. And the problem with paying the ransom is it does two things. One, it puts you on a list of someone who's paid the ransom, so now people know they're paying the ransom.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective.
But two, if you're smart, you still got to destroy the equipment that was encrypted.
Because it's still on there.
Yeah, because you don't know that you got it all off, so you have to figure out a way to get your files off safely and still take the hard drive out, smash it, whatever you want to do with it, and build new equipment. Yeah. So you're still going to pay, unfortunately.
Last question. If you were to summarize all this, what can people do? What's the most valuable advice you can give? You're on the front lines. This is all you do. This is what your company does. And by the way, I should have mentioned earlier, it's not just here. They have a presence in the Cayman Islands.
The Cayman Islands, yeah.
And
the UK, right outside of London.
So you're in the UK, outside of London. Yes. So you guys are seeing a wide variety of perspective. You're seeing like a broad view of all this. Mm-hmm. So what are the things, what would you say people can and should do if you were to kind of issue a public service announcement?
Sure.
I think all the people that are watching this, what would you say?
I think the three things that should be done is protecting your we call them endpoints, hosts, protecting your computers, your servers, finding that right tool. We have one, there are a few others out there, that just stops those ransomwares from running. You just don't want them to run, because once they run, they're infected, and they infect so quick that once you've done it once, half your network is already done.
So when you say find the tool, they're put something in place that proactively is watching, is monitoring, is looking for anomalies.
Yeah. So for instance, we have a tool.
Right down.
We have a tool that we have that's part of our tool set that installs on the machine that watches every file that's tried to run, file, script, what doesn't matter, as long as it tries to execute on the machine. And if it doesn't match the files that we've said are known good files through various techniques, it won't let it run.
It's powerful.
Yes. Yeah. So we figured that
would address the ransomware.
Yeah, we figured that stops 90% of anything that can happen, because most of it's happening on the computer.
So if you're doing that with that, and the other major contributor is really just human education.
Yes. Yeah, cyber awareness training.
Those two things, if you had to pick a number and say that reduces the risk by X%,
I think with those two things,
something?
you're in the 90s. A great tool to stop unwanted programs from running on your machines.
Right.
And cyber awareness training.
Constant.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't talk about this, but getting back to the phishing for a sec. The using those proactive phishing, like sort of testing systems, like an OB4.
Sure. Yeah.
Those things work, right?
They do. Yeah. We don't do those ourselves, but we've worked with other companies to do them.
Yeah.
They're very effective.
They scare people.
Yeah, we worked with one about 2 years ago. We worked with a company. We did to 300 employees. We sent the phishing email out. It was very nice. It was built on their HR website. Full, they put a really lot of time into it. It looked really good. We captured 97% of their employees' passwords to their network.
Yeah, that's awesome.
On the third test, after 2 awareness trainings, we only got 10%.
Yeah, so it's working.
Yeah.
And by the way, the best thing is we do these for our clients. At times, like they'll say, what should we do? And we'll say, use like a no before.
Sure.
And it's funny because oftentimes the people that we catch are like the CEO. It's always like the highest level people in the company, which we always get a good laugh out of it. But then you have to go and have a conversation with the CEO and the CFO, and it's always delicate.
Yes.
But so what people can do is proactively put a system in place to identify anomalies and block. Yep. And just train.
Yes.
Awareness.
And work with a good cyber professional. Cybersecurity is
100%.
It's an evolving spectrum of things that happen every single day.
Yeah.
We're constantly reading and learning. For instance, at my team, I send my team out for training all the time. We never stop training. We never stop learning new things, because one of the things I always explain to people is we have to be right 100% of the time, but the hackers and ransomware people only have to be right once.
Yeah, they got you.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. I think this was valuable. I hope it was valuable. The information is everybody's got to be aware of this. It impacts everybody now.
I would say the last thing, financially, if you think cyber services are expensive before you start, wait till after you've been hacked and then see how expensive they are.
We can tell stories.
We
can both tell stories for the next couple hours.
Yeah, we come in 10 times more expensive after we have to come clean it up.
So. There's a lot to be said for getting in front of it, budgeting for it,
definitely,
spending the money up front, and
being prepared.
It's. I met with somebody a few days ago, and the conversation came up. Of course, cyber always comes up, and they were asking me about dual authentication and my thoughts on a variety of the phishing scams and all these things. And they said, "Well, what can we do?" So I gave them some advice. And they said, "Well, we don't have a budget for that." And I said, "Understandable, and I can give you information so that you can create a budget for it." And they were like, "Look, we've been fine for all these years. This is a large company that's in the tens of millions a year in revenue." And they said, "Well, we've been fine for all these years. Like, we could probably get along, a little longer."
Right.
I said, "You probably could. There's no way to know."
But the other question is, do they know they've actually been fine all those years?
They they do.
Do they?
You know why? Because these are people that we've actually done testing, and you've done the testing.
Okay, great. So we've
I can't say who they are.
That's fine.
But
we've encountered that question before with someone who said they've been fine. But what some people don't realize is sometimes hackers will spend time in the system ahead of time.
Quietly.
Just wait quietly.
They're waiting.
And
that's a great point.
Eventually they'll do it, or sometimes they can come in, steal what they need, to leave, and not leave a trace. If they're just looking for a CRM file, it doesn't take much to copy a database file off a machine.
So the company like the one I was talking about, yes, they do the periodic testing.
Okay, great.
But it was more so going to the next level. They're in an industry where compliance it's there in certain places, and they have some exemptions, so they kind of can put it off for a little while. But the question is, do we do it? Why do we need to do it? Is the investment worth doing? And my answer is obviously it's up to you. If you believe that lowering your risk of all these of being hacked and things that could happen, is it worth spending on something like dual authentication? Whatever the monthly cost is, which usually is not that much,
Right.
and a couple dollars to set it up, is it worth it to have that in place to essentially know that you're going to wipe out almost all the risk of a variety of these risks?
Correct. Yep.
Versus not doing it. And that's kind of what the conversation was. And ultimately, they decided to put it in their budget for next year, but it was like a really, really long, in-depth conversation for something that, you know, it's on top of everybody's mind.
Right.
But the thing is, and I do relate to this, every business owner or every business leader is so sensitive to the costs up front, but not necessarily thinking through the reality of the costs,
right.
to your point before, which is why I'm saying all this, of not doing it up front. Those back-end costs, if you get hit, they far exceed the small investment up front to actually try and avoid the problem.
They do.
And that's probably a good way to end this.
Yeah, I can say that, you know, it's widely publicized, but the Baltimore City ransomware cost them $18 million, they're saying.
Hold on, say a little something. $18 million.
$18 million to remediate. So by, you know, using those same techniques, you know, authentication, backups, all those techniques perhaps could have saved them from having the ransomware in the first place. But $18 million later, just to clean up is, you know, hefty. There are cities, so obviously it's a much larger enterprise, but it's still a hefty price tag to pay for anybody.
But even if they had dual authentication in place, proper backups in place, and certainly like a virtualized type of solution, or if they were in the cloud, they would have been able to roll back and be up and running so quickly.
Right.
So we didn't even mention the lost productivity and lost revenue the businesses suffer from not being able to operate. Right. Yeah, we didn't even get into that. Maybe we'll do that in the next video.
We should, yeah, because there are statistics that most.
You know, when you throw something out there quick.
I don't have it off the top of my head. I'm not going to make it up, but I read a statistic a while ago, and I'll get the number for the next one. That our percentage of small businesses don't make it past their first cyber attack.
That's true. I've heard that.
Yes, just because of the amount of lost data. Well, not just lost data, loss of reputation. Especially if you have to call your clients and say, you know, we were breached. And
look at especially like we're in the IT business. You're in the security business, so that would be devastating.
Yes.
I have people that I know that are watching this, that are in the insurance business, that are in financial services, that a lot of lawyers are watching. We have a wide variety of other professionals that are watching, and I think everybody can relate to what the impact would be to them or to their firm if they were out for like a week.
Right. Yes.
Think about being out for a week.
Yeah, they just said lost. You know,
cost.
Lost. Yep.
You know, so. Again, this is Matt Johnson from Phalanx Security, and 3 locations, right?
Yep, 3 locations, one in Baltimore, 1 in London, and soon to be September 1 in the Cayman Islands.
In the Caymans, right? Yep. So international company, very much on top of things. We trust them. For those of you that work with us or may work with us in the future, you know, have faith and confidence that these are the people that we're working with, and as far as the cybersecurity, and we'll get together again and we'll do another one of these, and I'll ask him different questions, and maybe we'll talk about some statistics and
I look forward to
deliver some value to the people that are taking the time to watch it.
All right, great. Thank you for having me.
All right, here.
Thanks
for coming from Ireland.
Thank you.